Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to give it a few more minutes. We got some folks that are, I guess, just coming in, I should say. So a couple of folks have asked us to hold off for just 2 or 3 minutes. So we'll get started here in a few minutes. Thank you for joining us. All right, well, why don't we get started? Thank you, those of you guys that joined us today. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy Saturdays. My name is Pete Smith. I'm president and founder of US Performance Academy, a school designed for high-performance athletes. Part of what we do in supporting our athletes with their academics is what you're going to see today. It's part 2 of the webinar led by Brendan Barnard, our Director of College Counseling. Brendan brings a wealth of experience to the table, not only in starting and founding college counseling offices, but he also has seen the entire process through both lenses, in upper school or high school, if you will, and also from the college admissions lens. He's been published a few times in the Washington Post, and above all, is very knowledgeable and very willing to share his experiences with all of you today. So as he goes through his piece, I really would encourage you not just to listen, but certainly interact. You'll see a Q&A button on your screens. Don't be afraid to press that and ask a question at any point throughout Brendan's presentation. Excuse me. He may or may not choose to answer it in real time. He might wait until the end of the presentation to get to questions, so don't feel like we're ignoring you. If you have more questions, feel free to do follow-ups. This is designed to be not only very informational, but also very interactive, and feel free to do that. With that said, Brendan, we're going to turn it over to you. I'm going to go ahead and mute and turn my screen off so I don't distract anybody. I will be back to join you at the end of today's presentation, but a special thanks to Brendan. Thanks to our audience for being here today, and look forward to a great half an hour.
Great, thanks Pete. And I appreciate that introduction, and thank you all for joining us. Greetings from the college office. If you had a chance to watch the webinar that we did about 2 weeks ago, you'll know we kind of gave an overview of the college recruiting process and looked at each year of high school, 9th through 12th, and really identified what some of the key issues are for student athletes as they move through high school. Today, what we really want to do is get a little more in-depth into kind of how you really initiate this conversation and this communication with colleges and with coaches, and how you go about putting yourself out there, creating highlight videos, visiting colleges, and looking at who you are as a player, and communicating that to schools. So what we want to do first of all is kind of think about this idea of marketing. And sometimes marketing seems like kind of the taboo word in education. This idea of marketing ourselves seems somehow cheap or self-congratulatory, but it really isn't. It's about being proud of who you are and proud of your gifts and what you bring to a school in terms of your academic, your intellectual engagement, but also your athleticism. And so as we think about how to market yourself, first of all, how do you determine what kind of fit you're going to be for that college and for that sports team, specifically within the recruiting process? Who do you ask? You know, I think it's important to really identify where you are in your sport and what level you're at, and you know, your coach is a good person to get a sense of that. Former teammates who might be in playing at the college level, and then looking at your own play and being realistic with yourself about the level which you can really compete at. It's helpful often to go to the recruiting camps and to showcases and participating with elite teams and club AAU teams and things like that, going to tournaments to really determine how you stack up against other student athletes who are potentially going to be recruited. And you can start to get a good sense quickly from those events, kind of what level you'll be thinking about, and also what level coaches are just demonstrating interest in you. Some students will choose to use a recruiting service. You'll see on the screen a link to one of them. I don't think it's necessary. Yes, sometimes it looks more professional and put together, but coaches aren't expecting that. So don't feel like you need to shell out a lot of money to do one of these recruiting services. But some students choose to do it just because it's easier and they take care of everything. But either way, it's helpful for you to build some kind of website, some kind of video that really can help coaches kind of boil things down in terms of your candidacy at their school and with their team. Thinking about the player profile, who you are as a player and how you communicate that to schools. This can be looked at in many ways, kind of like a resume, right? Like a athletic resume, as though you were applying for a job, but in this case, you're applying for a team, right? So creating this document, a Word document, about 1 page, sometimes depending on the sport, it would have to go into 2 pages. But having your contact information, so your address, phone number, email, your coach's contact information, so name of your coach, the team that they coach you on, or the sport, and maybe their email. And please check with your coaches to see how comfortable they are with sharing either specific cell phone numbers or specific email addresses. But that information should go on there. Any important statistics about you both athletically and academically. So that would be, and we'll talk a little more about this later, but that would be, GPA and test scores, and then a picture so they can identify you at camps and showcases, and if they come to your competitions, they know who they're looking for, and just some general character information about some of your interests and things like that, and then creating a contact letter, okay, so like a template of a letter that you would send out to coaches, and you would tailor for different schools and different colleges and different teams, and then also this highlight video that we'll talk about in a minute. They're also on college websites, on the athletic homepage of their websites. Most colleges will have the athletic recruiting questionnaires, or sometimes called the prospective student athlete questionnaires. These are kind of the first step in creating this relationship, which is in many ways a very professional relationship between you and the coaches and between you and that school. So going on, filling out those questionnaires with all your information kind of gets you on the radar for these coaches if you're not already on the radar. So that's just a bit about kind of how to start and what to think about. As we talked about in the last webinar, there's different regulations with NCAA depending on the division about when coaches can contact you. It's important to know that you can contact coaches anytime, so you can initiate that contact. You don't have to just sit there and wait for it to happen. And also sometimes contact happens kind of through back channels, through your coach and things like that. But you can always contact them. Don't be offended if they don't respond, especially if they're in season. And sometimes, depending on the sport and depending on the school, they have huge volumes of athletes showing interest, and so don't take it personally. Always, when you contact them in an email or official letter mailed to them, always include contact information and your player profile that we just talked about your coach and your information. Make sure you proofread your letters, and have somebody else proofread them as well. because, like I said, this is a formal relationship, and you need to be making sure that you're putting your best self out there. And finally, once coaches do start to contact you, once they're able to contact you, make sure you respond to all the coaches' inquiries. So if you, even if you're not interested, you need to make sure that you respond to them and just tell them that thanks for your interest, but I'm actually pursuing other schools, and at this time I'm not interested, because you need to know that these are pretty close communities within the coaching world, and within certain divisions and certain leagues, and coaches talk a lot, right? They put on clinics together, they go to camps together, they many of them are good friends, and so if you kind of shrug off one school when they try to contact you, you need to know that they could be talking to other coaches and saying, oh, well, so-and-so never responded to my email, my calls. I was really kind of put off by the way they responded. And you don't want that kind of that bad blood out there as you try to demonstrate interest in other schools. So this contact letter that we talked about, this template that you're going to develop, first of all, you need to make sure, if it is a template and you're using it for multiple schools, that you have the right coach and the right school listed on that email or that letter. So you don't want to write to the Clemson coach and address it to the University of North Carolina, or you don't want to use the wrong name for the coach. You name the coach at another school. Just bad form. And do your homework. So when you have this letter, you're going to tailor it for each school so you can explain why you're interested in that school specifically, and not just kind of I'm interested in being a big city and in a good sports team, and that's why this school popped up for me. It kind of articulate specific things about that school that you find attractive and that you think you could offer, and why it's a good fit for you. And include your academic information, because they need to know if they pursue your candidacy and start this recruiting relationship, that you're going to be qualified and that they're going to be able to kind of get you through the admissions process with their admissions office. And in that player profile, you'll have the athletic accomplishments and things like that, so they have a sense for things. And ideally, you'd have a link to videos. Some people will send out DVDs and things like that, but ideally, you have a link to a YouTube channel or something like that, so they can see your highlight video. So those are a couple of things to think about as you send that contact letter. Now onto these highlight videos. So what these are not is just a hour-long video of one of your competitions. Okay, you need to keep them short and sweet. Consider that many coaches have huge volumes of these videos coming into them. And so, 10, 12, 15 minutes of just highlights, some including the flow of the play. And again, this is going to depend on each individual sport. But if it is a team sport, stay away from too many of the just individual shots of you and in your play. They want to see how you're interacting on the field and with your teammates. They want to see your level of play compared to your opponents and compared to your teammates. Like we said in the earlier slide, link to this highlight video in your email correspondence, in your letter, so they can readily access it. Some students will use a professional videographer. It's not necessary. Sometimes a coach or a teammate or a parent with a video on a tripod would, is just as quality, and it doesn't have to be, special fades in and fades out. But Some find it easier just to use a professional videographer to help them really kind of hone in on the plays they want to put forward. So that's a little bit about creating that highlight video. And some other just issues that come up with the video are, you need to make sure it's quality picture, and that it's clear and concise and not drawn out. No cheesy music or offensive music. I mean, it's make sure if there's sound, if there's talking, things like that, that it's not distant and that they can really hear what you're saying. And if you're describing the play or setting a context, that's really clear and short and quick and to the point. When you think about sending these videos, whether you're sending a DVD or a link or something like that, make sure the coach knows it's coming, that it's not just a DVD that ends up in their mailbox, and you never know whether it got there or not. Send them an email and just say, "Dear coach, sending this this video and want you to be aware that it's coming, and please let me know if you receive it." And do send it right to the coach, not to the admission office. The admission office does not want to have hundreds of highlight videos coming into them, nor does the athletic director, for that matter. So make sure you send it right to the assistant coach or the head coach, whoever you've been in most contact with. So there's just a couple other things to think about. As you lay out the flow of the video, think of if it's a DVD, creating channels and having your contact information on the first channel, and having your player profile and some of the highlights and things like that, your statistics in terms of test scores and awards you've won athletically and that kind of thing, in a second channel, and then having the highlights, some brief individual highlights and things like that. And then if you're having a longer play or longer video of competition, you can put that at the end. And if they choose to watch that, then they choose to watch that. But that's not the most important thing. You want to have the specifics of your competition first. So now kind of things to think about when we talk about marketing ourselves, and how, again, to put your best foot forward and realize that this is that professional formal communication with colleges and with coaches. And what does that say about you, right? So if you're giving them an email address, make sure that it's an email address that you check often and that you are going to respond to. And in terms of the address, the email address that you use, be aware of what that says about you. So maybe it's a school email address, and that's fine. But if you have a personal email address that's I'm hotstuff@yahoo.com, probably not the best way to put yourself out there. And same goes for the voicemail greeting that you have or the ringtone you have. You don't want to have a greeting that's one that you would just use for your friends, and maybe it's vulgar, or maybe is sarcastic, or you want to have the number you're giving them. You want to have a message that's more formal, and they're not going to make assumptions about your character based on it. If you are texting, some coaches will text, and if you are coaching or if you are texting, make sure you're not using slang and just quick shortcuts and things like that, and lots of emojis and things like that. This is you're establishing a relationship with them, and some coaches will be pretty young, right at assistant coaches will be right out of college and things like that, and it will seem like these people are kind of your buds, and that you can be less formal with them. and try to resist getting kind of sucked into that, and try to keep it more formal. And that goes also for your kind of social media footprint, if you will. If you're on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or those different social media outlets, what does your public profile on those say about you, right? They're going to look at those likely, whether or not, maybe it's because they're typing your name into a Google search to find out about some athletic award you won, and your Facebook account pops up. They're going to look at that, and if there's questionable posts and things like that on there, then that can really affect how they look at you. I mean, often the admission office will not do that. Some do, but coaches likely will. So those are just some things to think about as you're really putting yourself out there and trying to establish yourself. So the college visits. Again, visit as many schools as you can just to really get a sense for what you want. You can do as many unofficial visits as you would like, but when you go athletically, it's really important to know in your mind, okay, what makes me special? What's going to make me stand out? And be able to articulate that to the coaches, not in a pompous way, but just kind of, okay, how am I going to fit into the needs of this team? And what are the needs of this team? What do they need a goalie? Do they need a defenseman? Do they need, what's going to make you important to their goals and what they hope to accomplish as a team? And where are you in terms of their recruiting? And this, maybe you don't ask this right off the bat, but pretty early on in your relationship with that coach, it's important to understand, are you a top recruit for that school? Are they, do they just have a spot for you if you get in? So being able to really determine that from coaches early on is helpful, so you don't kind of get left out to dry. In terms of academic and social questions when you're visiting, you should want to know the graduation rate. What percentage of students graduate within 4 years? Or does it take the average of 7 years for students to graduate? What's the attrition rate? Meaning, how many students come back after their first year, and how many leave the school? Because if it's a really high attrition rate, if students are not coming back, it's red flag, right? I mean, especially, and sometimes they'll keep these figures, especially for student athletes. So those are important things to know. If there's a certain major or program that you are really interested in, it's good to know, one, if that school offers it, and also kind of what are the strengths of that program. So as you go on campus and you talk with the admission office and maybe with the coach or players, how is the sports psychology program at BU? Or how is, are there certain majors that athletes tend to stay away from at this school because it's hard to manage? Those are important things to know. And the academic support of the school too. So some schools, especially Division I schools, will have a academic support person in the athletic office. And some sports will have mandatory study halls and things like that. So understanding those supports and how they will meet your needs is really important when you're visiting campus. As is the preferential scheduling. If you do athletes have first choice of courses given your travel schedule and things like that? Are you able to get the courses you're going to want and need, and the timing and everything like that? And then social life, living situation. Are all athletes housed together? Are all teammates housed together? Is that something you want? Would you rather live with students in all different areas of campus life, or do you want to really be in athletic housing? And if that's available, or if that's mandatory? And do students live off campus after the first year, or do majority students live on campus? Is there kind of a house that is typically off campus that that athletes in your sport usually live in? So understanding those issues of school culture, social life, and how you're going to fit in as a recruited athlete in other ways. Last time in the last webinar, we really talked about the NCAA and eligibility and what it means to be a Division I or II or III athlete. Again, it's really important that you go on to the NCAA website, the eligibilitycenter.org, and first of all, register with NCAA, but then also familiarize yourself with the guidelines, the graduation requirements in terms of the 16 core courses, and being approved by the NCAA as our courses are at U.S. Performance Academy. You know, the 4-year timeline for graduation from high school, and when that starts, and understanding that. And then the GPA requirement, and how that aligns with your test scores and the sliding scale to be a qualifying athlete. And then also how your competition at the amateur level affects NCAA status, and really, really digging deep into some of those issues surrounding eligibility and college competition. So that's just a little bit on the NCAA, and again, make sure you familiarize yourself with that. Just some final thoughts, and then we'll take some questions. But again, it's helpful if you have a specific area of interest, or career or academic interest, that you let that lead the way in kind of in concert at the same time with your recruiting. Because what you don't want to do is, if you really want to study engineering, you don't want to end up at a school where you can play for the athletic team, but they have no engineering program, right? So determining those goals, determining what kind of school you're looking for, issues of affordability, do they offer scholarships? Are you going to be able to pay for that college? And does it have the programs you're looking for? Is it an area you're looking for? All those kinds of things. And then again, determining which level you really are qualified to play, and being realistic about that. Some other things: don't procrastinate. If you know you're a procrastinator, make sure you develop a timeline year to year and what you need to get done and when that needs to happen. And we'll help you do that in our office, in the college office, but also with your learning coach. Be good about returning questionnaires, sending film, all the details, right? Crossing the T's, dotting the I's, making sure you're on top of this process, because it can be a lot, and it's a lot at the same time as you're competing athletically, and you're being in high school, and you're doing your courses. So getting support in that, and that's why we're here to help you with that. Like we said earlier, visiting as many schools as possible, and then creating kind of a priority list of your colleges, not just allowing coaches' interest in you to determine your priorities, but looking at kind of what are my ideals in terms of which colleges I would like to be admitted to, and then where am I seeing interest from coaches, and then looking at those two priorities together and meshing them together to get your final list. Contact with coaches, talking with neighbors or former teammates or other students at USPA who have seen schools, have been to visited schools, have gone to school there in the college, just to get a sense for what the real culture is on that campus, and take that with a grain of salt, because everybody's experience is different, and But it's great to get some input about from people who have had more experience with schools that you're looking to. And then finally, as they say in marathon running, drink early and often, right? So what you don't want to do is wait till the fall of your senior year to really get your ducks in a line in terms of application. You want to the summer before, and you want to be working on things and working with our office to have your whole application, essays, all that kind of thing, tests all taken, so that you can submit your application by the end of September. So some colleges will have an October 1st deadline for recruited athletes to have submitted their applications. So coaches are going to be pushing you pretty early to submit those applications. And so having all that done beforehand, and now the common application, which many colleges will use for their application, now it allows you to roll over from year to year, so you can start that. It used to be that you couldn't start until August 1st. Now you can start that earlier. So really being on top of that is important. So those are just some things to consider. Would love to hear some of your questions. And I'm going to invite Pete there he is. I'm going to invite Pete to come back on, and we'll take some questions. And I'm just going to bring up the Q&A. So one question is, about the player profile. Okay. So the question is, does USPA help us in creating the player profile? And the answer is absolutely. We've had lots of experience in the college office of reviewing player profiles and highlighting what's most important for students, getting them their GPA and their course lists and things like that, so that you can put your best foot forward. And we have some templates and things like that to help you along the way. So great question. Okay, so here's another question. What if a coach doesn't respond to me? You've sent things again and again. There's no response. It could be a trying time, kind of wondering where you stand, and if they've did they get your information and just not interested? Are you sending it to the wrong person? It's all right if you've emailed them a couple times and picked up done the prospective student athlete questionnaire. It's totally all right to call the coach and just say, just checking to make sure you've gotten my information. I'm really interested. Or try calling the assistant coach, because oftentimes the head coach in sports is just in specific sports. The head coach is just straight out, and maybe not kind of the lead on the recruiting process, and so it'll be an assistant coach. And so reach out to other folks within that athletic office. So I don't see any other questions right now, but again, our office is here to assist you, to support you, to answer your questions, your emails, to help you put your best foot forward. And thank you for spending part of your Saturday with us, and hopefully this has been helpful for you.
Yeah, and a special thanks to you, Brennan, for taking time out of your day, and everybody, again, to echo Brennan's words. Thank you for joining us on a busy Saturday. Again, if you want to learn more, it's gouspa.org. Those of you guys that are here that already are part of our community, reach out to your learning coaches or directly to Brennan with any other questions. Brennan, a special thanks from all of us. For everybody else out there, have a great weekend, and thank you so much for joining us.
Take care.